I love that Chuck kept Kawhi off of his list. I feel like it makes sense. You know,
I know he's out for indefinitely.
But see, that's speaking of the Thunder.
Yes.
You know who has the Clippers' unprotected first-round pick this year?
Oh.
Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
They.
Yeah.
Could you imagine they get like Cooper Flag and just add that onto this roster?
I'm not saying Oklahoma City Thunder don't have. They have potential, probably the best potential in the league.
Yeah. I'm scared, but they can't keep all of it, like financially.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Swish Happens, and today I have some guests. Welcome.
Thank you, Will. I am Dr. Gardner. The real ones call me Dr. G. I'm just really here for the vibes to keep the kids in line. That's why I'm here.
I'm Emily. I'm the co-host of this podcast.
I'm Luke Desmoni.
And I am Will Carter, and today we are going to be going over some of the recently released player lists from ESPN and Inside the NBA, as well as taking a look at some of our expectations for the season. So today, why don't we just start with this player list, with the ESPN list. While you were looking through, did any names stick out to you? People you thought were too high, too low? People who took a jump that you expected them not to take, or were lower than you think they should have been?
I mean, I think Trae Young kind of dropped a little bit. He's at 37 now.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like especially after last year having to work with Murray, he should be a little bit higher. His offense is still there. It's just not that good of a team.
See, I've always had mixed feelings about Trae Young because for me, he's undeniably super talented offensively, but I feel like there's a rough ceiling for him because he is absolutely useless on the defensive end. And he hasn't really shown to be able to play well with other guys. And so at that point, I don't really know how far he can bring your team. Obviously, they went to the conference finals, but I think that was a little bit of a fluke.
I think my guy would be Rudy Gobert. His jump was from 64 to 34, and it's a little crazy if you ask me. I know he won Defensive Player of the Year last year, but on the offensive side of the ball, I don't know, nothing there for me. The other day, he airballed a dunk.
Yeah. I know they had a great team last year, and their defense was amazing, and you got to give him credit for that. I just don't think it's worth jumping that high
30 spots on the list.
And so I feel like, do you guys think this list is based off of current ability, projecting for the season, or based off of the end of last season? Because for me, I feel like it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah. I feel like Edwards made a big jump because of his playoff performance, but then you have other players that were good in the playoffs and dropped somehow.
Yeah, and even with Edwards, he was really good, but he was very inconsistent.
Yeah.
And you saw that a lot in that Mavs series where he just was gassed and could not be relied upon. And even in that Game 7 against the Nuggets, he was kind of a no-show.
I agree. I was going to talk about one of the players that really, I don't think he should be in the top 40, even though he's number 31. Julius Randle. I hate Julius Randle. I think Julius Randle is trash. I think he's maybe a top 50 player in this league. I don't think, if we're talking about, okay, let's say they said, okay, based off of last year, Julius Randle has just underperformed every year with the New York Knicks. And so this change of scenery may help him. But if we're basing it based off of the end of last year, which at least I feel like they did, Julius Randle was top 50 at best. Hate the guy.
Yeah, I think that is his ranking on the Inside the NBA list. On the ESPN list, he is at 48, so I think they kind of helped you out there in terms of his ability. But as much as I hate to do it, I got to defend Julius Randle.
Why?
Because I want to respect the game. I want to respect the game, okay? And he was an All-NBA player with the Knicks, putting up 25, 8, and 5. And that's not easy to do, right? And as much as I don't like his attitude and I don't think he's a winner, he is a respectable player. I don't think he made that Timberwolves team better at all. But I wouldn't say he's a complete bum.
He's a complete bum. He's horrible. He's inconsistent. He's super like ball dominant to be effective, and it just didn't work on. I don't think it ever really worked on that New York team. But let me stop because I'm ready to go in on some other things. I'll let y'all go ahead.
Speaking of ball dominant players, how do you feel about Zion Williamson at 27 over Jimmy Butler?
That's literally what I had pulled up. His jump was crazy too. Another person who jumped 30 spots.
57 to 27. And Jimmy Butler dropped from 12 to 28. How do we feel about that?
I mean, Butler did get hurt at the end of the year, so I feel like that kind of affected it. But Zion, when he was healthy, was going insane. He would have a double-double each game, was still able
Emphasis
to pass
on
the ball.
when he was healthy.
That's why I think
Big
he went up,
emphasis.
yeah.
But, I mean, if we want to talk about, like, when it comes down to health, Jimmy Butler isn't the most healthy guy either. But we know who Jimmy is, right? So I feel like it's kind of disrespectful to put him down below guys like Zion and even De'Aaron Fox. And
Oh,
Paolo.
I just saw Kyrie's name on the list. Sorry, my bad. Sorry.
I mean, I think
Sorry.
I think it's different, right? Because these guys are in different positions where, like, Kyrie and Jimmy Butler, one guy's the best guy on his team, the other guy's like a complimentary secondary guy. But with Zion and Jimmy, they're both like ball dominant guys who are expected to be the best player on their team. And for them to just drop Jimmy like that, I think is kind of ridiculous. Additionally, we want to talk about reliability. You have Kawhi Leonard at 22 on this list, which
22 injuries per year.
yeah, I don't know how to rank a guy like him. How do you guys feel?
I think it's difficult too, just because when he's there, he's one of the best players in the league, but he has not been there recently. Like even just a week of games, sometimes he can't even get.
Yeah, he's very inconsistent, and with that, you know, they talk about, well, if he can be healthy for the playoffs, but if he can't play at all during the regular season, James Harden can't carry him the whole way, especially with Paul George gone. I don't know if he's going to even make the playoffs to show that he has anything left in the tank. So I feel like he got to be, like, asterisk next to his name, maybe just, like, not on the list, because it's rough. Because I love that Chuck kept Kawhi off of his list. I feel like it makes sense. You know,
Especially no, he's out for indefinitely.
but see, that's speaking of the Thunder.
Yes.
You know who has the Clippers' unprotected first-round pick this year?
Oh.
Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
could you imagine they get like Cooper Flag
Oh,
and just
my
add
gosh.
that onto this roster?
I'm not saying Oklahoma City Thunder doesn't have. They have potential, probably the best potential in the league.
Yeah. I'm scared, but they can't keep all of it, like financially.
Yeah.
A guy like Ja Morant, who I want to talk about next, at 20, he's also had some injury problems. He's been in and out, but he still plays more, right? We think he's going to have a healthy season, right? He's going to play. Well, healthy, knock on wood. But he took a massive jump, even though he didn't play last season. And he's ranked under a guy like Tyrese Maxey, which I think is very interesting, considering the roles that they play. But how do you guys feel about that?
I thought it was interesting that he took that big of a jump to begin with, because he only played, 9-10 games last season?
He did not play a lot.
Yeah, and then had the suspension, was not there. So I think it's interesting to see that jump, but I'm not mad that Maxey's ahead of him. As a Celtics fan, I love Tyrese Maxey. I love Tyrese Maxey. So I'm happy to see the jump that he took. I'm happy to see him in front of Ja. Yeah.
I just have a problem with this whole list, y'all.
Talk to me.
Because I really want to know.
I need Dr. G's top 50.
It'll be accurate. Because I'm trying to figure out how they create the list. Like, what's the criteria? Like you said, is it based off of last season? Is it based off, what is it based off of?
Because, how do you have if it's based off last season, how do you have someone like Ja jump 15 spots after he played not even 15 games?
Exactly. I just don't understand how they created this list, because I have to get to one of my main points here. How the hell do we have the water boy of Team USA ahead of the guys that got us the gold medal. Like, I'm just so confused. How, in what world, give me a second, I see you itching. In what world is Jason Tatum Deuce's father?
That's all he is.
That's all he is. At this
LMA's
point,
baby dad.
all of it. How is he a better basketball player than Stephen Curry and LeBron James? How? So I'm trying to figure out, how are we creating this list? And then how was Wemby a better basketball player than Anthony Davis? What are we doing? What are we doing?
I do think he's a better basketball
Absolutely
player.
not. Absolutely not.
He is
How?
Well, firstly, right, I want to address your first point. I think this list it's weird, right, because you want to say, like, we know Jason Tatum is not better than Steph Curry or LeBron James. And he's not even the best player on his team, or else, I mean, look at the Finals MVP. But the Finals MVP isn't even in the top 10. So it's not even based on recent accomplishments. So I would say, yeah, that's pretty weird. But with the Wemby thing, Wemby's already a better defender than Anthony Davis.
I don't think I agree with that.
So
I don't think I
I
cannot
think
agree with
defense comes in there are multiple things you have to take into account. Firstly, just physical ability to stop the ball, right? But also the fear that you put into your opponents. The amount of blocks that you don't get because someone drives into the paint, sees you, and turns around. There was a play, and I always bring this up, last season where there was a 3-man fast break against Victor Wembanyama, and he stopped the whole thing. No one wanted to attack or shoot the basketball because he was there alone. And I've never seen Anthony Davis have that kind of deterrent effect on a group of players like that. And I think that just allows for the rest of the team to do so much more defensively. And offensively, I just don't think Anthony Davis is a super reliable guy, night in, night out, to be a superstar. And Wemby obviously isn't at that level either, but I can see it coming along.
So let me respond to that. I'm going to let y'all talk in a second. I'm so sorry. So
She had to ISO real quick.
yeah, real quick. So when it comes to the fear aspect of Wemby and like the things he's able to do, like stopping a 3-1 fast break, that has a lot to do with his wingspan, right? That's a lot to do with natural, God-given things, right? But when it comes to Anthony Davis, when I think of the best defender in the league, I'm thinking of somebody who can defend the 1 through 5. That can defend everybody. I don't think Victor can stay with a Kyrie. I don't think Victor can stay with, everybody from a 1 to a 5 perspective, in which we've seen Anthony Davis on multiple occasions in regular season and the playoffs stop the 1 through the 5. And when it comes down to his offensive game, I think a lot of his offensive deficiencies came because of the system. Darvin Ham's system was awful when it comes to how to play through AD. In these, 4 preseason games alone, J.J. Redick has Anthony Davis playing through a system that's towards him. So I think he said this season, we're actually going to play through Anthony Davis. So I think this season is the season we're going to see his offensive game the best we've ever seen. So we're saying this version of Wemby is a better basketball player than Anthony Davis, not on either side of the basketball to me. I just think his natural wingspan, okay, cool, I'm scared, obviously. I'm scared to go up against that. But Anthony Davis is a powerhouse all across the board.
I think that's valid. I think we can agree to disagree on that point. You guys.
I'm sorry, I got passionate. Y'all go ahead.
I'm going to have to
with her.
agree. I think
Yeah.
Davis is better. I think, too, he's playing on a team that's trying to make the playoffs, win a championship. He has to share the ball with LeBron, with all the guards. And Wemby kind of has free reign on the Spurs. They're not going anywhere. They kind of just want to get him developed for now, have him prove everything, and then try to make a run. So it's going to be a lot easier for him to get away with plays and scoring opportunities than Davis is, because he wants to win the game instead of taking like a 3-pointer on a fast break.
I will say this upcoming season, though, I don't see them not trying to make the playoffs. You don't get a guy like Chris Paul, and you're not trying to make... I don't care how old he is. He has shown throughout his career he's a winner, and he's going to make your team win. Mm-hmm. And so I think they really... they brought him in to try and mentor the team. Like, look what happened when he was with the Thunder. They turned around their season from the previous season to the next season, made the playoffs, and it really showed... That was like the emergence of Shea and the Thunder as a whole, guys like Lou Dort, and really set them up for what they are now. And so I think this season we're going to see and unleashed Wemby in a way that is going to be put in positions that are going to be ideal for him. I think AD, to a certain extent, he's had a couple coaches, by virtue of being in LA, but he's had one of, if not the greatest playmaker on his team the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the excuse of him not playing the right way is kind of when you have LeBron right there to set you up every night. Well, every night, but.
Now, I will say what Wemby may have over AD is motor and consistency. Because whatever system you're in, like AD, I need you to at least give me effort every night. I don't think I saw that, but Wemby, he's going to give you that motor every single night. So I'll give him that. But offense, defense, he's not more skilled than Anthony Davis. Absolutely not.
Well, there's another player who's ranked above Anthony Davis that I want to ask you about. That's Jalen Brunson.
Hell no.
Why is that?
He's just not. We're talking about better basketball players. Again, I'm trying to figure out how they assess it.
Well, I mean, from my perspective, for this question, I see Jalen Brunson was the best guy on a really good playoff team, and Anthony Davis was the second best guy on a team that barely made the playoffs.
That's a valid point, but again, that's why I always go back to the baseline. How are we judging this? Yes, his performance on the team was cool, but when I'm thinking about a holistic basketball player, Jalen Brunson is not better. He's accomplished a lot more. He had a better team around him, taking out Julius Randle. But
better team is interesting.
Yes.
I mean, they have really good role players, but Anthony Davis has LeBron.
And that's it.
I mean, not D'Lo. AR-15.
Now you're playing.
I'm joking. I'm not on that D'Lo wave.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
But what do you think about the fact that the top 4 of this ESPN top 50 list are all international players? What do you think that means for the future of this game? Because just for those who don't know, we got Nikola Jokic at 1. Luka Doncic from Nikola Jokic from
Serbia,
thank you. And Luka from Slovenia. You got Giannis from Greece, and then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from Canada. So 4 non-Americans in the top 5 of the NBA. That's pretty crazy.
Well, during the Lakers game last night, they said, or no, it was during one of the games last night. They put up something that said, the last 6 MVPs or something have all been international players too.
Yeah, but 3 of those MVPs were the same
Well,
guy.
no, I know. Well, 2 of them were Giannis too.
Oh, right.
Because it was Giannis, Embiid somewhere in there. Jokic.
So, actually, how do we feel about Giannis being number 3, considering the consistent disappointments he's had in the playoffs?
He was ranked 1 last year?
That's actually ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
I think they made it after the Dame trade, so they would assume that. But
Jokic.
even that, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just not the biggest Giannis fan in the world.
Yeah.
And so that's my challenge. I'm a skilled person. And Giannis, he knows he knows his game. Right? He knows what he's great at. But I'm just not a fan of his skill set. So I just don't understand the Giannis ranking.
30
I put him
points
top
on
10.
60% from the field.
That's what I'm saying. He knows how to play his game. Right? He gets him. I would have him top 10.
Top 10.
I would have him. I
Who
don't
would
know
you
where.
put over him?
LeBron.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Come on.
Obviously.
I mean, who's won a
Jokic,
championship more recently?
Jokic, Luka. But that's not what it's about. It's about who's a better basketball player.
I mean, that's fair. When Giannis is healthy, he's unstoppable, though.
He is unstoppable on the offensive end. For sure.
And he's almost an immovable force on the defensive end.
A movable force is a big statement.
He's one of, if not...
You're talking to somebody who thinks that Giannis is the best 2-way player in the league.
Okay.
I mean, he's the...
Thanks.
He's
I
one
just
of...
wanted to give you some perspective.
He's a top 5, top 3 defender in the league. And like I just said, 30 points per game on 60% shooting. You're not stopping him.
If we're talking about who's unstoppable on the offensive end, okay, you can put a lot of players up there.
Yeah, you could. But who has that level of defense consistently? Like Joel Embiid, right? I think just as good of a defender, right? Not
Yeah.
as versatile, but I think a better rim protector. And honestly has a way more varied offensive skill set. But he doesn't bring the defensive effort every night that Giannis does.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's important.
I mean, I actually think Giannis, now he may have the best motor in the league. I don't know who I just said, but Giannis has the best motor in the league. So I think that plays a role in it. I can't put him, was he number 3? What is he?
Yeah, number 3.
I don't know if I put him number 3. Where would y'all put him?
I definitely put him top 10.
I would probably put him outside the top 5, like 6 or 7.
Name 5 players better than Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Well, we could start with Luka and
Yeah.
Jokic.
I can't deny that. Even though he's a better defender than both of them combined, like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
but
I
they're
get that.
offensive engines onto themselves.
And at the offensive end, they're more involved with it. Like you saw the Celtics a couple of years ago were able to stop the Bucks just by letting Giannis do his thing on offense and getting rid of the rest of the team. It's
I
like
mean,
they're playing 2 different games trying to figure out,
See,
do we give
but-
it to Giannis, do we give it to the team?
as much as I hate to make this argument, you saw the same thing with the Mavs in the finals. But that doesn't mean that the best player is flawed. It means his teammates aren't helping him out when they need him. It's like he has the ball and he's dishing it, making stuff happen. But the guys who need to finish the plays aren't finishing the plays. And like, look at the inconsistencies of guys like Chris Middleton, even Dame last year. Like, did not look. I mean, he looked okay, but when Giannis was out, like they weren't really doing much.
Yeah.
And then Brook Lopez is old. So I love him, but he's like 35 at this point. So
And he's not going to work unless Giannis is in, because you can have Giannis rebound, put Lopez in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Lopez is the only one. You lose a huge part of his game.
That's a good point.
But no, I think it's fair to rank Giannis over a guy like Shea
Yeah.
and Tatum.
See, I give you that.
No, both of those guys, but both of those guys were like, or at least Shea was runner up in MVP voting, 3rd.
Yeah, he averaged 30.
Yeah, and on the best team in the regular season in the West.
Yeah, he played well.
But
I just don't think he's a better basketball player than some of these guys. He had a good season. There are a lot of people that have a good season.
he's also a great two-way player. I will give him that.
He's all right. He's all right on the defensive. He's pretty good on the defensive end. Not as scrum defensive end, but
But ultimately, I think some of this has to do with team success. Some of this has to do with individual success. But I want to take a look at the teams you think are going to be better or worse than last year. I want to know who, based off of the moves we've seen in the offseason, who's taken the biggest leap and who's taken the biggest drop off from last season.
I mean, I think Sixers are going to have a big leap just because you add in Paul George, even just the games that Embiid can't play, and if he's able to play, that's going to be another 10, 15 wins that they're getting.
And they were a play-in team last year. So, yeah, I think they're set up really well. I know both Joel Embiid and Paul George have injury concerns, but I think they've set themselves up really well in terms of role players. And with a guy, an ascending star like Tyrese Maxey, I trust him to win you games by himself when he has to. So I think they've got really good insurance there.
and so conversely, I think a team that's going to make a really big drop is the Los Angeles Clippers. I think the Clippers. I don't think they make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because we have to talk about how competitive the West is this year. I think this is probably going to be, and quote me, I think this is going to be one of the most competitive conferences that we've seen over the last 10 years. The Western Conference is stacked. I think almost like half of them got better.
Yeah, but I mean, some of the big teams did get worse. At least I think some of them got worse, at least.
So who else other than the Clippers?
I think the Nuggets took a step back with the loss of KCP. I think that's going to hurt them, and over the past, I don't know, it feels like 16 months, Jamal Murray has not been playing like himself.
Yeah.
He was terrible in the Olympics.
Talk about
He was
it.
really bad in the playoffs. I know he hit those shots in that Laker game, but he was just very inconsistent. And even in the regular season, he like dipped off. So I don't know if he's going to be able to take on the burden. Plus, I mean, Christian Brown, I don't know if he's the guy who's going to really pick up the slack. And outside of that, I don't really know where they're going with their current roster. And that's concerning because Russ is not going to fix the problem. Additionally, I think that Minnesota,
I was just about to say that. I think the Timberwolves got worse.
Talk about it.
I would say why? Why did they get worse?
Because of their trade. Listen, I don't understand the trade. I don't think, like on both ends, I don't think Cat can play in New York, but Julius Randle and Dante, it doesn't make sense to Minnesota for me. Like, I don't know. I feel like I liked Ant and Cat together. I liked that, but now, I just don't see what that, adds to their team.
No, I thought that was a horrible trade, too. You know how much I can't stand Julius Randle, so I didn't understand what that meant, why Minnesota did that. And another team that I think is going to actually make a jump, the Memphis Grizzlies. I think Zach Edey was huge.
Literally.
I will say I was a Zach Edey denier. I did not think he was going to be... there aren't a lot of guys in the league who are...
Been in college for...
been in college for, 4 years?
Yeah.
And are also straight post back to the basket guys, right? How many of those guys exist in the league today? And how many of them exist as just, role players? Because I feel like Joel Embiid can do something like that because he's a superstar, right? He commands the ball, but I don't personally see Zach Edey being this super high, superstar level player. And so giving him the ball to do that consistently was always something I was worried about. But I think fitting in on this Grizzlies team, he can take over that Steven Adams spot that they lost when he went to the Rockets. And I think that could be meaningful. That being said, this team does not have a lot of shooting around it. And so the spacing is going to be a little rough.
In the beginning, but I think that they're going to be okay. I don't think they're going to be a number 13 seed again.
No.
I think,
as long as they can stay healthy.
Yeah, they can stay healthy. I think they can be top 10, but it's going to be, again, very competitive in that Western Conference.
I think they could be a top 5 team.
But do you see this Western Conference?
I mean, so what other teams do you think are going to be up there?
Obviously, Oklahoma City, the Clippers. No, not the Clippers. Wow. Whoa. They're going to be about, obviously, your Mavs. That's what I'm going to say, obviously, your Mavs.
Do you think they could be... How do you think they're going to take a leap, or do you think they're going to take a step back?
I think your Mavs will take a leap.
How much? Because last year they were the 5th seed with 50 wins.
I mean, y'all have the potential to win the West. I think y'all have potential to win the West because, again, I'm still grieving, people, if you don't know. I'm still grieving that the Los Angeles Lakers did not get Klay Thompson. I thought family meant something. Family clearly means nothing to Klay Thompson. And so I think that alone, like you said, he's not going to have that pressure to be the superstar or a superstar. He can just be a star, even a role player if he wants to be, right? So I think that puts y'all up a lot.
And he hit some shots last night. He hit some threes. So
He hit some shots, yay!
No,
Does his job!
So we're trending in the right direction. He's getting all of that stuff out of his system.
Okay.
Yeah, his vote for his last, 30
It was
something?
something like that. But when the season starts, he's going to be ready, and he's going to have all the space in the world off of guys like Luka and Kyrie that I think the moves they made really set them up well, and the ascendance of Derek Lively, he's gonna be special, man. What about the Suns? What do you guys think?
I think that's going to be really interesting just with the chemistry and how they're going to work, because it's been a little weird watching them play. It sometimes seems like they just don't know what they're doing at all.
And they got a new coach.
Yeah, and then other games it seems like this should be the team that wins the championship. It's really 50-50 with them.
See, I'm skeptical. I don't really trust their defense. If you're gonna play guys like Booker and Beal and Kevin Durant all at the same time, and then Nurkic is, he has to be your 5, right?
Yeah.
So firstly, who's playing point guard, but who's gonna guard the other team's best player? Because Kevin Durant's in his mid-30s at this point. Beal's over the hump. Devin Booker, I'll give him some credit. He's become a really solid defender, but if he's going to be your leading scorer, I just don't know if you want him playing that role for this team. So I'm skeptical about their playoff potential, but I think they could beat anybody in the regular season.
I think that like regular season standing wise, I think they either stay where they are or they drop to a play-in team.
So they either stay at 6 or drop down.
Yeah.
I agree.
I don't see them getting better. Why would they get better?
Well, they did get a real point guard, and I don't see the Suns doing this, but if they keep, I think it was Tyus Jones.
Yeah.
He is their new point guard. If you were to put Bradley Beal on the bench and allow him to run the second unit, I know he's getting paid ridiculously, but if you can move one of their role players into the starting lineup to play some defense and allow him to cook off the bench, I think that could help solve their issues and keep them more consistent when their main guys aren't in. But, egos, he's on a massive deal that included a no-trade clause, right? So he clearly thinks pretty highly of himself. The only no-trade clause in the league.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so at that point, I don't know if he's willing to take that role, but I think that would maybe help them get better.
I have to agree. I agree with Emily and Will here. They're not getting better. And if I was the coach, that's exactly what I would want to do. But, politics...
And they're also taking more
like
threes now with
Right.
Budenholzer, which I think will help. Because a lot of these guys love the mid-range, but a shot that's worth 50% more points is going to help more.
Yeah, no, it's going to help. So, yeah, no, I agree with y'all 100%. I think Bradley Beal, if it's going to work, he's going to have to come off of the bench. Because every year, what do the Phoenix Suns do? Underperform. Every year. Like you said, some years they look like they could win the championship and they barely make the playoffs. So I have no stock in them. I don't think they're going to shake any tables.
So this is a little bit off topic, but what does that say about Kevin Durant? Because we look at the last couple teams he's been on, right? Mm-hmm. You could say the exact same thing about the Suns this year, the Suns last year, the Brooklyn Nets. Both before they traded James Harden, after they traded James Harden, with Kyrie, the last time he was really on a team where we felt consistently good about his chances were in Golden State. What does that say about his legacy?
I mean, I've already felt this way about his legacy. He is a great contributor to a championship team. But can he solely be the guy? No, he cannot. Mm-hmm. He cannot. I mean, what does the resume say? He has to be with multiple superstars, and pretty much he has to be a role player in that, right? He was a role player amongst Steph and Clay. He wasn't necessarily the guy on nights.
And his role was to be a star. Role was to score,
yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So he was a star in his role, just like Drew Holiday is a star role player, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not making any all-star teams, but you're so good at what you do that you might as well be the top. And when you're scoring 35 points for the Golden State Warriors, and that's your job, it's pretty easy to look like the greatest player in the league.
Yeah, and I think it was...
No hate to Kevin Durant.
No hate. He gets on his burner accounts and stuff like that. We don't want any smoke.
For real.
But at least on that Golden State team and those teams, he knew what his role was to score. I don't know if he quite knows what his role is with Phoenix.
I don't really know if he even has a role with
Right.
Phoenix. They see him all over the place.
Exactly.
I think, though, you got to give him some credit for being able to do whatever you need from him, really. But it just has not really resulted in winning. Mm-hmm. But another player who you could say hasn't really contributed all that much to winning just moved, and that's DeMar DeRozan. What do you think about the Kings? Do you think they're going to take a step forward this season?
I think they're going to take a huge leap, especially if Sabonis plays like how he did last year.
You lighting that beam?
Yeah. I mean, you saw it 2 years ago. They almost beat the Warriors.
Yeah.
Game 7, when that was a good Warriors team, too. They won the championship. I just think that if they keep playing how they are, their team's going to work. It's been working. They've kept getting better. It's just going to be a couple things that they got to tweak, and then that should be good to get them into a playoff seed, not a play-in.
Yeah, and I like the emergence of Keegan Murray. I think he's going to be a really good player for them on both ends. He can light it up from behind the arc, and he's a really solid defender. I'm interested to see how DeMar's going to fit in with this team because he's never really been a great defender. He's a super clutch guy, but I just don't know how that fits with De'Aaron and Sabonis. It just feels like a not perfect fit, but I do think it'll help them win some more regular season games. Additionally, right, how do you feel about the Pelicans?
I think they stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they stay. I don't think they got better. I don't think they got worse.
You don't think they got better with DeJounte?
I guess. You know what? We could say they got better,
Yeah.
but if we're talking about the seeding, I don't really know if that's going to affect the seeding because the West is already hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I take that as you believe Zion isn't going to play very much.
I always had that belief. If
That's
I'm
fair.
being honest, that is
But
my
look, he
belief.
got skinny. He tried the Jenny Craig diet.
Good for him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ozempic Zion. That's what the Z stands for. No, I mean, I think if he can stay healthy, I mean, even if he's not healthy, I do, well, big problem with that team, no center, right?
Yep.
They recently came out and said 6'7" Herb Jones was going to start at center for them, and that, to me, does not really, I don't love it, especially when you got guys out there that they're going to have to deal with, like Sabonis and Jokic and Wemby and Jaren Jackson Jr. I mean, I know he's a power forward, but Zach Edey, it's gonna be rough. But there's just a couple other teams I want to check in on in the West. The Warriors, I think they got worse. They picked up a couple former Sixers in DeAnthony Melton and Buddy Hield, and Melton's great, but he doesn't play a lot. You know, he gets hurt often, and Buddy Hield, I feel like every team that he's ever been on, they're like, oh, like he's a really good shooter. Why does nobody want him? And then you get him on your team, and you're like, oh, he like can't defend and doesn't make big shots.
They get reality to finally accept it on why no one wants that.
Exactly, and he just gets moved on to the next place, and so I think they're gonna try to put him in like the Clay role, but I don't see that being super effective, and so I think they might miss the playoffs and the play-in, even with Steph. And I think a team that might be taking their spot is the Houston Rockets.
I'll give you that. Golden State Warriors, they're not making the playoffs, guys. I think we can all agree. Can we agree?
Yes.
They're not making the playoffs.
Steph, you hearing that?
And I'm so happy. You know, I'm the biggest Warriors hater as a LeBron fan. So
I'm the biggest Warriors hater.
Oh my God.
I used to pray for times like this. That's all I have to say. But yeah, I think the Houston Rockets will definitely make a jump and a leap. I think they got better. And I'm excited to see what they do. How do y'all feel about the Houston Rockets?
I'm not mad at it. I think they got better.
I like Jalen Green. I think he's
Yeah.
improving. Reed Shepherd looks like he's going to be a really special player for them. They've got a lot of guards, so I don't really know where he fits in right now. But he can light it up, man, and I'm excited for his progression. As well as guys like Şengün and Jalen Smith, or Jabari Smith, pardon me, Tari Eason. These are guys that I think could be really good for their future. But in the East, there's one team that I do think might take a step back that you guys might hate on me for. But I think the Boston Celtics aren't going to win the East this year. I think the fact that Kristaps Porzingis, we know already, probably won't play until 2025. You're relying on an 80-year-old Al Horford at center. I'm concerned that they're not going to be able to recreate their regular season success. But, I mean, when they have their guys in, they're unstoppable. So,
You saw them in the playoffs last year without Porzingis. They were still able to get the job done, which it's just something, if they make it to the playoffs, I don't think you can ever count them out with that.
agreed. But in the regular season, I think some of these other teams, I think this Knicks team is going to be an absolute monster. They could take on any team, any night, and I think they are kind of like a Celtics light almost. Like they have all those wings to guard in McHale and OG and Josh Hart. And they have a big five who can space it out to 30 feet. And they have a superstar in Jalen Brunson. And so with that makeup, and we already saw how well of a team they were just in terms of how well they fit together last season. So if they can recreate any of that, like, they don't have the same kind of injury issues as the Celtics do with Kristaps being their backline. That being said, they have great defense everywhere, so
They are going to
toss up.
gas out, though, like they do every year with Thibodeau. He loves to run him into the ground, 30 minutes a game.
That's 40.
Especially, yeah, you bring in Cat, he's not going to be able to do it that long.
I mean, Cat's done it before, right? Cat's played under Tibbs before back in Minnesota, so we'll see. The Bucks, how do we feel about them? Do you think they're going to take a step forward? Do you think Dame's going to have a resurgence?
I don't think they're going to do anything until they get rid of Rivers.
Wow, Coach Rivers hate.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%.
Got
I
it.
hate Doc Rivers.
Got it. And Darvin Ham is on the coaching
Yeah,
staff now.
both of them. That's
Okay,
crazy.
Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
Literally.
That's who you have.
I don't know. I think if Dame had a lot going on last year, right? Traded to a new team, moving across the country, divorce. He said he didn't work out in the offseason. If he can come back and be the Damian Lillard we know from the Trailblazers, they could be really, really good. Like, him and Giannis together is the kind of backcourt, frontcourt duo that I don't think we've seen in a very long time.
It's a perfect fit.
Mhm.
It's a perfect fit. So I think they have enormous potential. But that comes down to the version of Dame that we get, because we know what we're getting out of Giannis every night. So we got to see what we get out of Dame. So, yeah, I agree with y'all. But Boston, I don't, as much as I'm not a fan of y'all, not you personally, but you know what I mean.
No, you love me, I know.
I think it's hard to, like, discredit them early, because usually when the team win a championship, they come super hungry the next year. So, based off of that, like, even thinking about Jason Tatum, like, he didn't win Finals MVP. He was the water boy for Team USA. I have to keep saying that.
And Jalen didn't even make the team.
Right. So, I think, you know, that it starts with the leadership. And so, I think that...
That's psycho and coach.
Yeah. Yes. So, I'm not going to count them out quite yet. Do I want them to win something? Absolutely
I'm not counting them out. I'm just saying I don't know if they're going to be the 1 seed.
I still think they're going to be the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Well,
You can call it Celtics bias. I don't care. But I think the Knicks got better. Don't get me wrong. But they were the 1 seed by, like, 15 games.
Yeah, that's the
So
thing.
it's like, okay, fine. The Knicks can take a jump. But is it, like, that big of a jump? And then did the Celtics really fall back that much? I don't think so.
And you look at it, the coaching staff's the same. Other than Porzingis being out, no one's changed on the roster. If anything, they got better by added Walker, and he's only going to be a two-way player with the Maine Celtics and the Boston Celtics.
that's fair. I just worry about your backline defense. I think everywhere else you're good, like, very solid. But in terms, I just believe that center position is important. So relying on a guy like Al Horford, who I have, obviously as a Sixers fan, have experience rooting for, I'd be a little bit worried.
In the East, though, I don't really know how worried I'd be in the East. Like, okay, Joel Embiid. But, like,
We've seen Horford defend him, too.
right. So,
Ooh.
that's my thing.
Ooh.
I mean,
You're making enemies on this podcast.
I mean, you have the Bucks, you got the Cavs, you got the Magic. They all have some pretty legit big men in terms of Paolo and Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. Additionally, like the Pacers, obviously Pascal Siakam is in the center, but you know he likes to get down in the post. Bam Adebayo. It's nothing crazy, but you know something you'd have to consider. I feel
Absolutely.
like.
Yeah, something ultimately you have to consider. But I wouldn't necessarily worry about that right now in regards to the East.
No, they're fine, but they're fine in the East.
Yeah. And now if they were on that Western Conference, then okay.
Any other teams you guys want to take a look at on that?
Yes, because not on the East, y'all didn't talk about the Lakers. Y'all, they are avoiding the Lakers, and I have a really big problem. We talked about your Boston Celtics. We talked a little bit about your Philadelphia 76ers, and y'all didn't bring up the Lakers once.
It's
I
your
have
time
an
to
issue with
shine.
that.
It's your
I have
time
an
to
issue with
shine.
that. Obviously, I think the Lakers got better simply because we have a new coach.
Mm.
I just got to start there.
Valid.
That's fair.
I have seen J.J. Redick coach 3 preseason games,
Those are the only games he's ever coached in his life.
and I couldn't tell. Now, I have to start with, I wasn't a fan of the J.J. Redick hire immediately. I thought LeBron at this point needed a veteran coach. And he brought on his homeboy who has what, high school? No, it's not even high school. It's like volunteer.
Yeah.
Right, he has volunteer coach experience. So I was not okay with that. But
He's a podcaster.
A podcaster. That was his profession.
Well, after being a professional basketball
Oh, yeah,
player.
obviously.
Gotta give him that credit. He does know something about the game.
Yeah. But I think just, number one, the off-ball movement. We didn't have off-ball movement last year. And number two, it was pretty much, very much so, LeBron, very much so ball dominant. But obviously, we're about to play through Anthony Davis a lot more with LeBron coming off of the ball, cutting and things like that. So I love the offense already. The defense, obviously, we need work. But I think Dalton Connect, not even talking about what he put on last night. Okay?
That was insane.
Not even talking about, even if it's a one-hit.
20 straight points.
I'm not talking about, one-hit wonders. I saw him play in college. He was a sniper. And so if we look at the formula LeBron needs to succeed, it's always shooters around him and a solid big. He won a championship with Joel Anthony as a center. All he needs you to do is just stand your ground. And so that's the biggest thing that we're missing because we have a shooter in Dalton Connect. And so I'm hoping that we can try to get some solid center. I really love Dwight Howard. Anthony Davis does not want to play the 5. He wants to play the 4, and he succeeds better when he's in that 4 position. So we need to get him a center so he can go back in his 4 position.
I don't know if I agree with that.
I think he plays better at the 4.
I think his versatility at the 5 allows the team to play a better kind of offense and defense. And I think that is his true position. Like, he's not really a shooter. He's not spacing it out in a way that I feel like is effective. And last time you won a championship, you had, JaVale and Dwight, who were really good. But the lineups that you can play with Anthony Davis, I think, are just better.
I mean, obviously, you have more versatility when you have a stretch 5. But just think about it on the defensive end. If you have an Anthony Davis at a 4 and then a Dwight Howard at a 5, that's an unstoppable...
Current Dwight Howard,
championship Dwight Howard. I would love to have Dwight Howard back. I know politics. I know that they don't like Dwight Howard right now. But Dwight Howard will make me feel very confident in this Lakers team. All I need is a solid center. So I'm done with my Lakers soliloquy. I just wanted to say, shout out to JJ Redick. He has the boys playing so much better on offense. Shout out to Dalton Connect. We finally have somebody that can throw the ball in the ocean. We'll see if he forgets how to play basketball in a week.
Well, that's what happens on the Lakers.
So I'm hopeful.
I just hope they can stay healthy.
Where do you have them ranked for the season? If you had to put a number on it.
I hate to say this, but I still have us as a playing team.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to be honest. I don't want to show any bias like
No,
y'all
I know.
do. I really
That's crazy.
I really just have to be honest because I still don't have a solid center. The team isn't that good, but we're gonna be better than Golden State Warriors.
Who's your best role player?
Our best.
AR?
He's too. I don't know because Austin Reeves. I mean, yes, he on any given night he could be. Right, on any given night it could be Austin Reeves.
Rui?
On any given night it could be Rui. On any given night it could be D'Lo. It just depends on any given. As much as we gotta ship that guy to Taiwan.
Yes.
We gotta get D'Lo out of there. On any given night it could be a couple of different guys. So Gabe Vincent played well last night. So it's just the inconsistency of the role players. That's why I don't feel like we're gonna do too much. But I think if you have LeBron on the team, in LeBron I trust. So we will be a playing team.
Oh.
But that's it.
We didn't even talk about Bronny.
Yeah, what about...
You don't think he's going to help out the team?
No, I don't. And considering, we have to remember, this guy's a 55th draft pick. In what world have we ever criticized a 55th draft pick and said he needs to contribute to this team? He needs to be a fantastic role player. We've never had that. And so, no, he's not going to contribute, but he's going to be a great cheerleader. He's going to be a great water boy, just like You saw what Jason Tatum. You saw what Jason Tatum did in the Olympics. He just took notes. Okay, so he's gonna be right, and he's gonna learn. I think the learning experience for him is gonna be great. But no, he's not gonna contribute. No.
Well, unless there are any other teams you guys want to cover, I think we got just about everything.
I got one actually. Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
Talk about it. Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
I feel like their team last year Marketed, Sexton, Collins, Clarkson. Sorry, they're gonna be good still.
Mm-hmm.
They have the potential for it, but I feel like with the West, it's going to be a little more competitive for them. But they've shown that they have the ability to kind of rally and win. I think having a full season of that team is going to be really good for them.
I don't think they're gonna try to make the playoffs. I
You
think,
think they're going to tank?
yeah. I mean, this is Danny Ainge we're talking about. He wants to get a star, right? And they could get the next great white player in Cooper Flag, you know, in Utah. You know, like, I just feel like they're not at a point yet. What are they building towards if Lauri Markkanen is their best player?
Yeah.
Right? So I just feel like they're still going to try, and unless they make a trade for a star, which I don't really see them doing, I think they're still going to tank until they get something special.
I agree. I see your point, though, but the Western Conference is just too
Yeah,
tight.
I think you put them in the East, they're an easy playoff team.
Yeah.
It's just
I
that
always
with
think that all the time. Like, what if these teams like switch conferences?
I mean, if the Mavs were in the East last season, they would have been the 2 seed.
And
behind who?
Okay. And after the Celtics.
Thank you.
So what?
Thank you.
the West may have some 50-win teams that are in the play-in. I think the West is going to be that tight.
Yeah, I mean, last
Yeah.
season, the Pelicans were the 7th seed in the play-in with 49 wins.
Yeah. So it's going to be tight. I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, thank you for watching. I think we had a pretty good episode. And tune in later for what we have to come. Jesus, I'm terrible at intros and outros.
Or the Portland Trailblazers.
As the worst team, you think the Blazers are going to be?
They could be the worst team in the league.
Yeah. I think the Wizards just don't have anybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
I
Kyle
can't believe
Kuzma,
that. I would actually not. I would actually like to have him back.
Jordan Poole. Bro, last year, do you hear the Mavs were going to trade for him? And he was like, nah, I don't want to go.
What?
And then look what happened. We got Daniel Gafford and then immediately went to the finals.